What is going on, guys? And the Lakers received a lot of attention for losing game 1 against the Blazers, but they've won the last 3, and I think it's been a bit of an underrated storyline just how good their defense has been this series. If we look at the playoff leaders in defensive rating, they're first in defensive rating by a wide margin, and they've done it against a pretty dynamic offense in the Blazers. So let's take a look at how the Lakers have shut down the Blazers and what that means going forward. And just like the Lakers have kept the Blazers in check, Keeps does a great job of keeping hair loss in check for men. And what I like about Keeps is you can get treated right from home. Instead of going to the doctor for hair loss prescriptions, Keeps allows you to visit a doctor online for a prescription of the only 2 FDA-approved hair loss products on the market. They make it easy by sending the prescriptions right to your door. Also, by using generic versions of the medication, they can offer insanely low prices. So Keeps is convenient, affordable, and because of that, they have more 5-star reviews than any of their competitors, and nearly 100,000 men trust Keeps to prevent their hair loss. So if you're noticing you're losing hair or are open to an alternate way to get your hair loss medication, go to keeps.com/Daniel or click the link in the description for 50% off your first order. Let's start with the Lakers' defense on Lillard because he's the heart of the Blazers' offense and the Lakers did a great job on him. And maybe the biggest question versus Lillard is, how are you going to defend his pick and rolls? And we see what the Lakers do here. They bring their big up near the level of the ball screen, so if Lillard tries to take a 3, it'll be contested. And Davis is the perfect big for this coverage because he's long enough so if Lillard tries to take the 3, Davis has the length to affect it, but he's also agile so if Lillard tries to take him to the basket, he can stay with him and here he blocks the shot. And this was a big change for Lillard because in the games prior to the Lakers, he had a ton of success attacking the big when he came out high, and here when Porzingis comes up, Lillard is able to blow right by him. And it wasn't just Davis, the other Lakers bigs did a nice job too, and here Dwight Howard nicely slides with Lillard and forces a travel. Now defensively, whenever you bring 2 to the ball, that does leave the offense with a numbers advantage. So here the Lakers double Lillard, so Gabriel is open on the roll, but the Lakers are really good with their backline rotations, and here LeBron comes over to take a charge. The Lakers have a bunch of great athletes on their roster, and it shows in the short roll. So here Nurkic catches it, McGee helps, KCP is prompt on the sink, and LeBron looks like a free safety and is filled to the corner. And what also helped the Lakers out was the Blazers' spacing wasn't always very good. So here, Nurkic gets it in a great spot on the short roll, but the Blazers here are playing 2 centers, and with Whiteside already in the dunker spot, that already puts McGee in great position to help. But anyways, this was the right coverage to play versus Lillard because he is so dangerous with his pull-up 3, and the other advantage is, by bringing 2 to the ball, you're going to force more turnovers. Now, there were a few other things the Lakers did do to help slow down Lillard, one of which was to push him toward his right hand, despite the fact he's right-handed, and here we see Caruso execute the game plan. They did this from game 1, and we also saw it in the pick and roll. Here, for instance, the screen is for Lillard to go to his left hand, but Caruso is forcing him right, and Morris lines up accordingly. Now, you don't have to search too hard to figure out why the Lakers would want to do this. In the regular season, Lillard had 565 drives to his left, where Portland scored 1.14 points per chance, and when we look at his splits driving right, we see he drove to his right slightly less, and the Blazers scored slightly less efficiently. Now that's really not that big of a difference, but I'm sure it played a role in the Lakers forcing him right. Also, I tracked all of Lillard's recent pull-up 3s, and he definitely makes more overall when he's going to his left hand, which is pretty common for a righty shooter. And so I'm sure that all played into the Lakers' game plan, and the Lakers do like to get more aggressive than most in terms of following the scout and pushing a player one direction. They seem to have success influencing the ball, and that's also credit to the Lakers guards, and here Caruso doesn't let Lillard get left, and Caruso, KCP, and Green all defended Lillard really well. And also, the Lakers did a good job of picking up Lillard full court, really making him work on every possession, and he had played so many minutes trying to get the Blazers to the 8th seed, and the full court pressure certainly accelerated his fatigue. There's AD being a nightmare for Lillard. And when we compare Lillard's regular season stats to his playoff stats, we do see a notable difference. He averaged fewer points per game, almost half the assists per game. His true shooting percentage stayed pretty good, but probably the most important stat here is the pick and roll points per chance. When Lillard received the ball screen, his team did not score nearly as well, 0.92 points per chance, and that's credit to the Lakers defense. Moving on, and we saw this a bit already, but another area where the Lakers make an impact is with their ability to contest shots, and here we see McGee and Davis converge near the rim to protect the basket. This isn't rocket science, but it's so important. The Lakers have numerous rim protectors, and here we see AD stuff Lillard. Size helps on defense, and they play these massive lineups in large part because their point guard is 6'9" LeBron James, who can rotate over and contest the 7-footer. In the series, Portland has a 46.5 effective field goal percentage, which is 15th out of 16 playoff teams, and they've pretty much shot poorly all over the court. And again, some of that is fatigue, it's not all the Lakers, but they protect the rim, and they also have length to contest jumpers. And they're pretty aggressive closing out. Here we see both Green and McGee leave their feet to contest McCollum's jumper, and this is something they're pretty willing to do. This is a great one right here. Look at the effort by Caruso to close out to the corner and then leap and contest. And statistically, if we want to know why the Lakers defense is so effective, it's their ability to force the other team to shoot poorly from the field, and also with their ability to force turnovers. It all starts with their personnel, and while I've touted their length and athleticism in this video, I probably haven't talked enough about how they have really smart defenders, and here for instance, LeBron does something you rarely see. They have a bunch of guys with good hands, Danny Green and also Alex Caruso, who here strips it from Hazonia. In the playoffs, the Lakers have forced turnovers on 14.7% of their defensive possessions, 4th out of 16 teams, and they also make scheme-related choices to encourage more turnovers. For one, they're aggressive with their ball pressure, even with their bigs, and here Morris pressures Nurkic. Instead of applying pressure, a lot of teams like to drop their big, but here we see AD pressures Whiteside and he draws an offensive foul. They're also not afraid to trap the ball, and we saw this particularly at the end of quarters against the Blazers. Lillard would have it on top, and as we see here, they wanted to trap the ball and be aggressive. Good help by LeBron, and this was called an offensive foul. Here we see it's a 2-for-1 situation, and we see Kuzma come up to try to not let Lillard beat them, and as we see here, the two defenders behind them, LeBron and AD, are pretty ideal. So as we begin to wrap up, their defense has looked sharp, and they're well prepared for any playoff matchup. For instance, if they face Kawhi in the conference finals, they have a big wing in LeBron who can handle him adequately. With their length and athleticism, they also have the versatility to switch more in later rounds if they need to. And here with Davis at center, he switches on to a guard. And the other thing that's appealing about this Lakers defense is that in the first round at least, they didn't have any weak links on defense. Even Kuzma, who struggled a bit in the regular season, really stepped up and played good defense, rotating off ball and not being able to be exposed on ball. In fact, as we see here, he was really good with his on-ball pressure, here making things uncomfortable for Trent. Well, there you have it guys. The Lakers offense isn't perfect, but their defense makes them extremely dangerous. Thanks for watching.